pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do roll call.
Mr. O'Neill.
Present.
Ms. Ware.
Present.
Mr. Holland.
Present.
Ms. Callahan.
Present.
Mr. Stadelman.
Present.
Mr. Roseberry.
Present.
Thank you.
Motion to approve minutes of last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion is approved. Okay, announcements. We're going to welcome Donna Ware, our new board member. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here. And we still have one board member position available.
Would Donna like to introduce herself? A little bit of her background.
Okay.
Hello, I've lived in Sebastian since 2010, and I'm retired, but I did work in the chemical industry, specifically for a water treatment chemical company, and I was in the regulatory affairs group, and I worked with all the regulations, and I was also part of outreach and did a lot of event planning. So I hope to bring my skills to the group.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
Okay. Yes. And we do have one position available on the board and one alternate position available. So those will be posted on our website as well, the link. And now we have public input. Please approach and state your name for the record, please.
Brenda Jackson. And how are you all?
Good evening.
Good. At first, I have a question. Over the meeting we had last night at the library, and I believe Charles was there?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am. Stadelman.
Stadelman. And I had understood that this board was now put in charge of doing a plan for our vegetation? No? Okay.
No. This board doesn't have any jurisdiction over that. My only reason for being there yesterday was strictly to observe and maybe ask a question.
Okay. Well, that was my main concern, was whether Mr. Carlisle, our city manager, had assigned this board to review things for the vegetation removal.
From my understanding is they're handling everything right now, and we don't have any jurisdiction over that.
Okay.
It's not part of what we do as far as a board is concerned. It's his job, and it's also regulated by the state and federal. So it's,
okay.
Yeah, it's not in our wheelhouse.
So you wouldn't have any input either? You couldn't?
Not so much as input. If we were asked by city manager to address this issue, I would approach it to the board and find consensus first. It would have to go within our jurisdiction or our charter. So it's not within what we do. We are primarily fertilizing. We do work with applications on yards, and we do invasive species. That we are working on, but it doesn't have anything to do with spraying and control. And as related to the meeting last night, in particular, the spraying of Roundup or something like that. I think that's what you're more referring to.
That was the big picture.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we are working on invasive species.
Now, how are you handling those?
Well, we're developing plans as a team and identifying and working with other organizations in the county as well, and developing what needs to be eradicated, developing lists of plants. We have a pamphlet that's been developed that you're able to... Right,
I have several of those, and they're wonderful, yes.
Giving different guidelines, but that's a work in progress as well, and that's within our wheelhouse. But as far as spraying or anything like that, You know, it's strictly,
Okay.
we're observing, and until we're engaged in some way, I won't have an opinion on that.
Okay,
That's why I was so quiet last night.
okay, okay.
I asked one question because I needed to know where the information was coming from, but beyond that, I really can't comment on it because it's not in our wheelhouse.
Okay. Now, another question then would be, at the top of your minutes, you've got like a mission statement,
Yes, ma'am.
and it says that it's to nurture the balanced relationship between our citizens and our environment by protecting, preserving, and promoting our natural resources.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you were to come upon some information that might help the city manager come to some options, or would that be a channel? Would there be a channel?
It could be, as long as it's done properly. Anything that I bring forward to any city person like that has to be done properly, because there's different rules of how I have to talk to everybody. So that's another reason why I was so quiet yesterday. So if there's, we can't talk about things that are being voted on, and different things that are coming in front of the board. And that was the other reason we were experiencing that yesterday, because I figured you guys were coming in front of us today, and I couldn't really comment on anything because it's not what we do per se. But yes, anything that I could help just as a citizen outside of this board. I'm not even talking about the rules and regulations that govern what I can and cannot do, but as a citizen, what you're referring to, absolutely. And I had taken steps and prepared to offer any assistance that he would need. But the teams that we have in place already here at the city are so far advanced on what I know. We have scientists that work here. We have people that have gone to college and have masters, their doctorates. These people follow strict guidelines. My only input would be more as somebody who doesn't have the minutia of the everyday problems. Looking at an issue, I can look at it pretty cleanly, and I also bring a certain enthusiasm to the issue.
Right.
So when I show up, people kind of wonder, well, first, why I'm there, and then how can I affect the situation that we're in? And that's what I'm really about, is affecting the situation as it stands.
Okay.
But we don't have any guidance or anything like that as far as what we do as a board here, and I have to really pay close attention if I go to a city manager or something like that outside of an issue that needs to be brought in front of the board. I'm kind of overstepping our bounds. I can go to him as a citizen because it's a free country, and if I felt that it wasn't being handled satisfactorily, I would. And but from what I can see, with all the input from the citizenry and with what they're already working on, they're so far ahead of me on that issue. They don't really need or desire my input.
Okay. So in your opinion then, I'm sorry, it's all questions,
No,
but
it's fine.
in your opinion then, at what stage do you think that they're in this plan mode?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Oh,
Hi, I'm Lisa. No, that's okay. I'm Lisa Frazier. I'm the Community Development Director.
Okay.
And I think that what the board is trying to say is that the city council and the city manager are already spearheading this whole program. So a plan is already being worked on.
Okay,
And
right.
I believe they were there last night also, correct?
Right, and no input or anything.
Well, and so they have asked at the last council meeting that if anyone had any input, that they were the proper channel. So if you have anything that you'd love to share, Mr. Carlisle would love to hear from you.
Right. At the last board meeting, most of us got cut off because the council said that they were no longer the ones to approach. It was only the city manager.
Correct. And so what we're trying to state is that they are spearheading this program. It is in the process. So there's no real need for the NRB board to provide a recommendation because the plan is already being in process, and there's already people working on it.
Okay.
But again, if you feel that you have legitimate information that you would love to share, then please feel free to either send it to Mr. Carlisle or send it to Kim Hagler. She is our environmental technician, and we'll just make sure that that's been recorded.
Okay.
I think that might be the most simplest way to go. I think what, and Mr. Stead, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, sir, but I believe what he's trying to say is that there's already those in the city taking the lead on this program, and it is already in process, and that is the proper venue to share your information.
Correct.
Okay.
What I was trying, well, and I wanted to make sure, because what I had heard at the meeting last night was that this board was going to be assisting, or the plan was going to be handed over to them.
We don't know that at this point, because the plan hasn't been formulated, and I believe they're still working on it, so.
Right, and that's what we keep hearing too. It's still in the process.
Well,
and I know,
takes a while.
things like that take a while.
It does.
But, and I know as our group of citizens, we have stepped forward and said if we can help in any way as a task force, but I don't believe anyone has been approached for that help. So I'm just voicing questions.
And I greatly appreciate your concern. More of a personal note, all of us here are 100% committed to the safety and well-being of our waterways and the people who live here. We're also committed to that balance of business as well as the environment. If anybody on this board felt that there was anything that we could really just jump right in and say, hey, look, we got the fix. And I sometimes get ahead of myself because I feel like I can fix it, and that's one of the reasons why I did join a board like this. But at this juncture, with everything you guys are doing, that was a pretty raucous meeting yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it sure
yes,
was.
It was
like you're.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. I got to learn a few things too, and that was another reason why I came up here. But a lot of us are. We have scientists on this board. We have people who are very, very tied into the community. I personally have lived here since the 70s. Yeah, I've been here a long time. Before that meeting, I had made phone calls to try to develop opinions, and I felt if I had to jump in or parachute in and start waving red flags, I absolutely would. But the teams that you have already here in Sebastian are following guidelines as well as how they feel personally. They're not going to. There may be some issues with applications and the types of products and things like that that are being worked out. But I can absolutely assure you, every person I met from top down is 100% committed to the environmental safety and the well-being of the general citizenry, and are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that's the case.
Okay.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. Okay, is there any more public input? All right, let's move. Oh, we got, okay, all right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Damian Gilliams.
Damien?
I am a resident of Sebastian. I live
Yes.
here almost 38 years.
Yes.
I also own a business, multiple businesses in the community. I'm also here on behalf of the Sebastian Property Owners Association. I want to thank your staff and the committee here for serving the community. I, at one time, was chairman of code enforcement and get more volunteers in the community, pays dividends, and so I want to thank you and appreciate you being here tonight. So I want to thank Charles for coming out, as well as the city manager, Ed Dodd, and Mr. McMartin last night. They came to our meeting, and we appreciate that. We saw that there was an issue in the community that needed to be addressed in a fast-tracked way. And we felt that there was a little confusion at the council meeting when Mr. Cox came in front of the council, and it was diverted back to the city manager to take a direction. And we understand that it came to me through back channels that they didn't want to have a workshop in City Hall because of litigation. Now, that's just hearsay, and I can understand that because after reviewing your documents on this, from your file, public records request, the herbicides and chemicals that you're putting in our canals by a company called Monsanto. I'm sure you read the news every day. There's a big litigation going on, $280 million and 11,000 lawsuits. And I think that we have some very intelligent people in this community. And I'm sure every one of you board members have an investment, somehow either owning property or leasing property, but you have an investment in this community. And the residents and the taxpayers have come to the conclusion that the majority of our people come to the conclusion that we will not tolerate any more spraying in the canals. And I understand your speech that you just gave, and I understand, Lisa, you feel that this is not your forum. I get it. But we're covering all the bases.
Mr. Chairman, can I have that corrected? We didn't say it was not our forum,
Okay.
but I would like to have that corrected.
Sure, we can correct that for the record.
Okay. So I understand that you cover invasive species. There's invasive species in the canals. They're spraying them. The bottom line here, gentlemen, is this, and ladies. We have an upset community, and they want action. So how do we solve the problem? Do we set up a task force? Do we go with a board that's well-educated, that has an idea of what's going on with our natural resources? Does the city manager direct you? Does city council direct you? We're open for all of that. Basically, I just wanted to make an appearance this evening to let you know what took place last night. And if you're not sure, you can go to our Facebook page. There's a video, it's been recorded. Sebastian Property Owners Association on Facebook. You can also follow us, SebastianPropertyOwners.com. We have all your documents. We did public records request on file. Just go under breaking news, under news on the top, click it on, go down to documents, and we have everything that Applied Aquatics is applying in our community. And the majority of the people last night do not want it. And there was over 100 people there. So they asked for us to come down to make sure that this board and the staff that helps this board, that sets your agenda, whether it's optional or not, that's fine. If you don't want to put it on your agenda, we can always cross it and check out that box that says, we were here. We gave you the opportunity to either set up a task force or do it yourself. But more importantly, we just want to make the appearance. I would like for Diane Bolton, who chairs our environmental committee, to get up after I speak, if she'd like to. I'm not going to commit to her. And just elaborate a little on what went on last night. I will be happy to share these documents with you if you'd like. I would like them back. I could let you peruse them while she's speaking.
Okay.
So you have an idea.
Okay. All right, will you hear your next speaker, please?
Should I just?
If you want to. Okay. Oh, she's got it, so.
Oh, perfect. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we hope that you all get
You're very
involved. This
welcome.
is your community.
May I suggest that you go to the city council meeting tomorrow as well, because this is more their.
Well, we'll look on the agenda, and if it's on the agenda and they're ready to take action, you can rest assured we're going to pack the place. But I don't think it's going to be on your agenda. I think they're going to do their due diligence, and let's come up with the solutions and the options and the alternatives of what the people want. Because we pay the taxes in the community, and the council represents us. And I think they're aware of that. So thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your input. Okay.
Hi, I'm Diana Bolton, and I am the environmental chair for the Sebastian Property Owners Association. I've been here and spoke before the city council. I've attended 6 meetings, and I've spoken on 2 other occasions, so if you want, you can check out the tape, save us time, because I know you have a busy agenda and you want to get in and out of here. It's not going to be on the agenda for the city council tomorrow, so I probably won't be speaking then, but, or we will keep talking until they get tired of listening. But basically what we want to see happen, 2 things. We want to see a setback mirrored on like the fertilizer. I've looked over the fertilizer ordinance, and I've looked over the pesticide ordinance. And what I would like to see added, and I've talked to 2 of the city commissioners, and also I had a 2-hour meeting with the city attorney, or He was there for about an hour and a half, and the city manager for 2 hours about this. But basically what we want to see is the fertilizer ordinance, which is pretty decent. We want to see the pesticide ordinance mirror that as far as the setbacks go of any swales, water bodies, ponds, lakes, streams, rivers, oceans, lagoons, swales. Did I say swales? So we want to see that happen because that will make a huge improvement for the homeowners and also for the city. We want to see the city totally stop spraying the water. At first, it was just a glyphosate issue, but as I dug further and looked for more information, and I'm a marine environmental science researcher, so I dug more and realized what a folly. We're killing everything. I've interviewed clam farmers. I've talked to people that have gotten sick. We just had another one of our neighbors or friends diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. My niece died from it at 16. She was a star athlete. She spent a lot of time sitting on playgrounds. And one of the main users of glyphosate and the glyphosate cocktails are our municipalities. Now, I'm also working with 3 other cities right now, and all they had to do was ask, and it was put on the agenda. It's already going up for vote within the next month. In this town, my town, it's taking a lot longer. Feet are being dragged. So anything that you guys can do to speed it up, that would be great. So the 2 things that I'm asking for, and we have 4 or 5 organizations that are behind us, all the environmental organizations that were there last night. It was like the who's who. And we want to see the spraying stop. We're not choosing between gonorrhea and syphilis here on 2 different pesticides. We want the spraying stopped in the water bodies because I've studied the hydrology charts, and it's going right out into the lagoon, which is going out into our ocean, and I've worked on coral reef restoration and seagrass restoration, or it's going out into the St. Sebastian River and then going out into the Indian River Lagoon. So it took me a while to get the hydrology and understand it because I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what I was talking about. But we also want to go countywide on this, and I didn't know until just recently that the Indian River County is the headwaters, the beginnings of the St. John's Waterway. And that's pretty incredible. It's pretty significant. And we need to be good upstream neighbors. So those are the 2 things that we're asking for. Nice and simple. Stop the glyphosate. Stop all the spraying in the canals. Stop glyphosate. Stop that on the playgrounds for the children and the parks. Stop all municipal use of glyphosate. Stop the spraying in all the water bodies and the ditches and the swales, and then have decent setbacks for the homeowners. And then phase 2 would be an education program for the homeowners. I'm volunteering however you need me to offer my services to help in the way of research, more information, or also to help in the education process of the homeowners so that we can, if they want to poison themselves, there's nothing we can do to prevent that, but we can at least educate them on some simple ordinances that will provide a 10-foot setback that mirrors the fertilizer ordinances. Any questions?
I don't have any, but we certainly take this under, we're looking at a native species promotional type of package. So this will be taken into that,
Okay.
hopefully.
The big thing I've been hearing is it's expensive, but if it costs $5 a citizen, they're all willing to do that as opposed to having cancer. So, and see our wildlife disappear. So, it's affecting our wildlife and our clam industry and a lot of things. As you all know, you guys know a lot more about this than I do probably. So,
thank you for your concern.
as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
There is a sense of urgency here about this. Key West will be next. They've asked me to come and speak. There's another seaside town that wants to be the first. They want to beat you in the process, and they haven't even gotten started yet, but they've asked me to come and speak. So they'll probably push it through pretty quick. It's silly not to. It really is. City of Miami just did it, and that started effective as of March the 1st. So this is kind of a no-brainer. It's low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of problems, but this is an easy one to solve. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have April Price, our our guest speaker from the Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup, which is set for Saturday, July 27th. We hope all the board members can be there. And April, thanks for being here.
I hope so. Excuse me. Tough act to follow. My project that I'm bringing to you guys today is a little simpler, and but something that's been effective and long-term, so it doesn't solve all our problems, but I'm pleased that this is our 12th annual Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup. City of Sebastian and your department has actually been on board at some level from its inception, so we really appreciate the continued support and helping us promote this event. What we're looking to do is remove trash from 125 miles of waterway that day, and you're on the northern end of our event, and we go all the way down to Hope Sound, the southern end of Martin County, and then we also hit our beaches and our inshore waterway. So altogether, it's 125 miles of waterway, and we encompass about 20 miles of beaches now in our cleanup effort. We average about 1,000 citizens each year. We did start seeing a decline in our Indian River numbers over the past 5 years. We've had this happen in other areas, but there was a lot of transition, I know, in this committee and in a lot of government levels in that time frame, and which we kind of lost a little bit of track of some folks. But there's been a good core of people that have been involved from the beginning, and what I'd ask from you all is what we've done with other municipalities like the City of Stewart and the City of Port St. Lucie, where you promote it to your employees, to your citizens. We do have a TV commercial if there's an opportunity to run any of that on your municipality TV to get more people involved. We are very proud that we've we feel like this is an event that's been effective. Our first years, now that we're in year 12, our first third, we removed an average of 10 to 11 tons of trash each year. We then saw those numbers go to an average of 8 to 7 over the next third, and the last third we've been hovering closer to 5 than 6. So, and we've seen more volunteers come out. So more volunteers and less trash. My hope is by year 20, I won't be here preaching to you that everybody will have gone out and not found anything. So that's our ultimate goal, is to teach personal responsibility. So we've seen our efforts in Sebastian and Indian River County, the efforts we put forth last year increase. So all we ask is that you all support us. I've already been working with Kim. I don't know who my liaison would be directly, but if I can send our media packages out and help them promote to your folks and your team and your citizen, and anything you want of us, in return, we will report all of the numbers, as we always have, to your council, to include as one of your annual cleanups. And if you need past numbers because they were lost in transition, all you have to do is ask. I'll be happy to provide those also. So on behalf of the Marine Industries and Florida Inland Navigation District, I thank you for giving me time, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Excuse me, April, can you tell us the time and the locations that you're going to be cleaning?
Yes, this cleanup actually encompasses over 30 locations throughout the region, but most of the major boat ramps, Sebastian Main Street Boat Ramp has been the main location in this area, although Captain Hiram's people have left out of there. Sebastian Inlet Marina has been on board from the time they first came on board. Wabasso Causeway is one of our sites, and then we get down into the Vero Beach area with Riverside Park and the City of Vero Beach Municipal Marina, our Indian River sites. So all they have to do is register online. We love large groups. If you have a large group, a scout group or an organization, they can register up to 100 people on our online registration. They show up at that site. We provide them with a t-shirt. If they have any kind of vessel, they'll get a birdie to fly that day that will represent their part of the cleanup. And then a week later, we have a barbecue for everybody down in Fort Pierce that they're invited to. So, you know, all we're looking for is participation. We'll supply everything else. If you are in a position to supply us with any kind of gloves or trash bags or trash pickers, we will accept them, but we don't require that for your participation. We just really want you to promote it to your folks.
And we have electronic version available, PDFs and what have you.
Absolutely, and everything, we continue to keep our website updated, so I can leave some save the date cards with Kim, and and everything's on the website, and I'm available. If you need anything, call me anytime. Any questions? Thank you for your continued support. We appreciate it.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. May I ask you a question?
Oh, absolutely.
The waterway cleanup website, is it, I mean, I'm not familiar with it, so is it pretty obvious by Googling on waterway cleanup?
tcwaterwaycleanup.com.
Okay.
And Kim can leave you all with a save the date card that has our website on
That's
there.
great.
So yes,
Thank you very much.
our online registration, our sponsors, our numbers from past years are all on there.
Okay.
And a bunch of pictures, so it kind of gives you an idea of what people are out there doing when you look at the pictures and see our folks in action.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then we're going to go to old business. We'll move on to the Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration wrap-up for April 27th. So,
Do you want to do that by, like, committee, or how we were?
I guess we could just, sure, why not?
We have the meeting agenda from last one, so we could just kind of follow along that pathway. If that,
All right. So we're going to
with the retail and food vendors being first.
All
I know
right.
that Nikki's not here to report on that, but
I can report on
You
that.
can.
Yes. I'd like to say thank you to Kim Hagler for helping with the vendors and everything that went along with that. It wouldn't have been as good an Earth Day that we had if you hadn't have really jumped right in there and picked up where I personally may have been left off. It was a great experience for me to learn a few more of the processes that need to be done, as well as learning some of the workings of how to get such a large event off the ground. With that being said, thank you very much. I'm very, very grateful for your assistance.
Wouldn't have been possible without the work of the board members. I think it was a great collaboration and divided the tasks well, and I think it really went great.
Okay, enough of all thank yous.
If there are any individual suggestions, observations, like we had the new food vendor location, do you think that worked out better than where we've had it previously?
For me, the food vendor location was fantastic because I have to take into account people who live with disabilities. And that was one of the things, remember last year I was complaining about there's really no access for people with disabilities on the south end of the park. It's really difficult for them to navigate that little curb unless they go all the way down and come up the sidewalk. And you got to get over the curb. The other side has the curb goes all the way, is flat, so it was a lot easier. The vendors seemed to like it because they were able to pull right in. Any feedback that I've gotten from them has been 100% positive. They all said they made money, as well as exposure to sustainable business practices, which was one of our goals, was to make sure people brought things that could be either recycled, reused, or less than single-use items. So they got a lot of education that way, and as well as the shredding and the electronic recycling, that went really, really well. They were all those vendors and everything that went along with that was good. So the food guys were great. Our regular vendors, we got there early, marked out all the spaces to the layout. Everybody was basically satisfied with how the event was run. I didn't really receive any negative comments this year. So it was for me, the vendors and the food people went great. Next year I'll know how to do it a little bit earlier, and maybe have the food people lined up a little bit more solidly up front. We had one group of food vendors, but they canceled, and we went with the second group. So, but all in all, it worked out great. It was just a fantastic experience. Just really was.
I was just going to add, I'll get there at 6:45 next year and put out all the cones
so that the other vendors can't park where the food vendors are going. And that will make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, no, it still went great. It really was. For such the couple little bitty bumps in the roads that happened, if that was the worst thing that happened to me, then so be it. It was a great day. It was a fantastic day.
One comment that I received was that it would be helpful to have more of the carts available. We had 3 that were there for vendors, the retail vendors to use, and they expressed interest in having more. I know it seems they all come at the same time and leave at the same time, so it's those heavy periods that everybody's there. It would have helped out. But they all work together.
I'd like to add that I think that the entertainment was definitely something that was commented on very often from the vendors and participants as a home run for sure.
Thanks.
Yay, Brian.
Yeah.
Those killer bees or golden bees? What was it? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Golden Ukes.
Golden Ukes.
Golden Ukes.
They were awesome.
Yeah, they were. They were really.
I'm telling you.
They've already confirmed for next year.
They're just fantastic.
And one thing I was going to suggest for everybody is, and I'm going to do a one-pager, just in case, I get hit by a bus or something. But it'll be on file, and, as far as the entertainment, contacts and stuff like that for next year, since 3 out of 4 of them have confirmed already, so.
Great. While we're talking about, just for budget issues, we were talking about the bicycle that we gave away. And it's I don't know how much it is, but it's really
$98.
$98. It's $100, and we didn't know if that was the best use of that $100 for such a small event. It's a bicycle that went to one single person. Not that we can't continue doing it, but we didn't know if that was the best and the best use of that. Maybe next year, if we're going to continue that or not, we may want to consider that. Because for me, it just makes me real nervous because you got all these kids there and they're like, I want that bicycle. That was the other thing too. And I'm like, you get the bicycle and you don't. So that was just an observation.
All right. Anything else regarding the Earth Day celebration? Oh, your volunteer report?
Well, I was going to say, if we went in...
list.
Well, we're just using the meeting minutes from last meeting as all our reports, but I thought that we did have, as far as somebody showed up from the city, was it, for fire, and make sure all the fire extinguishers were with the retail vendors. I don't know if we expected that. Yeah. Oh, we did?
Yeah,
okay.
we had. Yeah.
I thought that the scavenger hunt, which was involved with that bike drawing, was the kids seemed to enjoy the scavenger hunt and interacting with.
The kids loved it.
Yes.
I think we had more kids doing it this year than we had last year.
I like that bike.
But beyond that bike, the kids had a great time, and I don't know how many people saw the young kid that lost his wallet. I mean, I don't know who was there.
I found it. It was handed to me.
Yeah. Yep. And then the kid comes up, and that just really made the whole day. Somebody turned it in. Just somebody found it on the ground, and it had money clipped to it. So it makes me really appreciate the area that we live in, and to know that these people do exist.
All right. Anything else?
Did you have a list of things to bring forward to next?
Considering how good it is, these are little minor tweaks.
Okay.
We had a lot of table questions about where vendors were located.
Yes.
And maybe there was a map and a list somewhere.
There was one.
Okay.
Printed. It was a
One
printed
at the
problem.
master table would have been good for any of us to be there to help direct someone off to a vendor, because we sometimes knew the number of the booth, but we didn't know where it was in the arc of where the vendors were.
There were 12 copies at the.
Well,
It was
see, I figured there were more copies.
The other thing you got to remember too, we were trying to conserve paper, ink, and all the other things. And what we'd actually done was we had emailed. That's pretty good, huh? We had emailed all that information that you just talked to multiple times to every single vendor, and I got there at 4:30 in the morning, laid out every single spot myself, numbered every single spot, and we still had people that came in with questions. But the goal behind that, the reason why you didn't have all the papers everywhere was because we were actually trying not to print stuff. And so I had sent it to everybody's email where you could open it up, but then I didn't realize it was big.
Yeah, that was a problem.
So I'm still learning. But that was the strategy behind that.
And I think the last one was from Ruth. What was our board about the 3 Rs? We had a couple people come up and say, add one more R, and that's refrain.
So refrain from
Reuse, recycle.
and refrain. So do you have to make that trip? So,
That's nice, I like
you know,
that.
maybe you,
Or don't spray Roundup.
refrain. Anyway, they said that we need to update our material on the Rs.
That's a good idea.
Minor stuff. It was my first experience. It was very interesting and a learning experience, and it was exciting.
I believe we came in under budget, correct? I mean,
The last page of your packet has the financial.
Review of expenditures on here. I guess that's old business.
Should have bought 2 bikes.
here you go, I got another bike.
Yeah, I know you guys like that bike. Yeah. I don't really mind it. I'm just thinking of the best use of any monies that we have available to us and what we can do, and also what they've done for that money too. I mean, that's really a lot of money for that short period of time for a scavenger hunt with again, I'm talking too much. It was just a mention, and it's part of our budget. Out of $100, it's 10% of the budget. So that was all I got to say about that.
All right. And then, I guess Lisa? Do we have any ideas for next year? I think we covered everything on that. Any ideas for next year? Are we covered with the Earth Day? All right, then let's move on to Lisa Frazier, our Community Development Director, here to speak with us.
Thank you. And I again, want to reiterate, everyone, thank you so much for your hard work. I really could not have been successful without all of you, and we truly appreciate that. I know that I only show up once in a while because Kim is the liaison, and she does a bang-up job. But now that we're, heading into a new season of budgeting, I really wanted to get a flavor of the new board members and the old board members and find out where you may want to go in the future. There was a lot of discussion in the beginning when this board started up again. And I know now you have your legs under you and you're charging ahead. So I wanted to kind of circle back and find out what it is we want to focus on perhaps in this next year. And again, I'm setting the budgets or making the budget asks, so I have to get a flavor from this board as to how they want to move forward. There was a lot of excitement about Sustainable Sebastian. I thought it was a great move, and I believe that you were meeting with, I want to say, EPA. I don't want to put words in people's mouths. I know Kim keeps me abreast of what's going on as much as she can. So stop me if I speak out of turn, Kim. Keep me honest. You all were working with EPA, am I correct?
That's
and you
correct,
were working
and-
with CURB, am I correct?
Yes.
In trying to formulate a program that mimics litter quitters,
That's
am I
correct. Something
correct?
that would be
Okay,
able to be
please.
rolled out on a nationwide basis, but we'll be using it here first. We've worked with Alan Soloway from the Clean Waters, through Clean Waters Administration, and also they work with the Indian River Lagoon. Dwayne DeFries, who is now, I guess there's somebody new, is he still there? Or?
He is still there, yes. They hired a new CFO.
CFO, okay,
Yes.
okay.
But no, Dwayne is definitely the director.
That was, the last meeting we had was held here actually in Sebastian, and We haven't heard anything since then, as
Okay.
far as the rollout is concerned. Alan was going to meet with some donors, large donors, because some of the corporations like to adopt these things as people roll them out, so.
So we were, again, I'm just trying to get it in my head and possibly for the public too. This is a program that you wanted to mimic Keep Brevard Beautiful's Litter Quitter program, correct?
Yeah, it would be exactly that, on a voluntary basis. We actually have
Perfect.
a couple restaurants already in Sebastian that are Brevard Litter Quitters, but it would be it would be sort of private label for different municipalities, so.
Very nice, very nice. And I believe the city council is looking forward to receiving, a suggested resolution or recommendations from you on that. So I want to encourage you to continue in that direction.
Hopefully by the time we have our next meeting, we'll have another update from the
Wonderful.
Clean Waters.
Did you have something to add, Kim?
Well, the litter quitter has graciously come into the county and certified some businesses and restaurants, just kind of to get the spark and the awareness out there. But at this point, they don't have the resources at KBB to come in, and so that's where we're working at. Is we created a prospectus our last meeting for the program, and then once the funding arrives, that's what we'll use for CURB to be our leader to bring it into our county. That's the idea.
Yep.
That's wonderful. So then I'm putting this on this is one of your priority projects.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good. All right. And again, please don't let me step out of bounds or put words in your mouth.
And
I'm just trying to get a
hopefully it's going
flavor.
to be wrapped up. It's not going to require a lot more effort, other than a couple more meetings perhaps, but.
I think the development part is finished at this point. They need to hold a training events for us, some of us to hopefully get
Right.
certified, and some members from CURB as well. And then it would be about the implementation at this point.
So when do you believe this would be ready to be presented to the council?
It's hard to say until we get to the EPA.
And we're kind of waiting on DC. There was a lot of delays with the funding cuts,
Well, the government shut down.
That's what I'm.
I remember reading that. I read that in the minutes. Yes, I did, absolutely. And I believe that you should all be aware that the state legislation has preempted local governments from banning plastic straws or plastic bags. So,
How does our attorney feel about that?
yeah, that's not for us to comment. However, so just be aware of that when you formulate your sustainable Sebastian.
It's all voluntary, so.
Good. Anyways, I had also on the list of something that we had all talked about, the garden here at City Hall. I believe that Kim has now informed me that the Garden Club of Sebastian, am I correct, would like to assist further, and so I want to encourage all of you to keep involved in that. I think it's turned out
great.
okay. We may make the signs just a little bit more small. They just seem a little big. That's just me.
Can I ask one question on that while we're talking about
I'm sorry,
that?
go ahead.
Is there any way of adding the rain barrel display out there to what we have going on? It just seems like we have a French drain out there right now, and I didn't know if I could do a cistern type setup to where I can show some recapture.
That's a good question. I don't want to be the one to say yes or no. Again, in the city, we work as a team, and I'm not going to preempt my facility managers or my public works or even my city manager on a decision like that. So when Kim and I are saying we'll get back to you, we're not being coy, we're being a team
I know
player
what we'll
here.
get back to you means. I've learned.
No, we get back with you, and you know we do. So I will ask about that, or, you say cistern, but we're really talking about a rain barrel. correct? Because a cistern, you actually collect the water
I could start with a rain barrel, but that's a large area out there, and it's already got a lot of stone. I could do a cistern. And the reason why I was going with a cistern was because I could pump the water out and water that out there on a solar water pump on a drip system, so I can recapture the water and then pump it back onto the plants with a solar pump. Sorry,
Whoa.
that's all too much.
I just love this guy.
All right, then, is that it?
No, I have a few more things on the list, because I want to make sure that we're all heading in the right direction, okay? There's Spoil Island restoration grants that I've shared with Kim several times. Again, it's a big undertaking. I didn't know if anybody was interested in anything like that at this point. We have one Spoil Island in our city limits. It's a pretty big Spoil Island. That's where we shoot off the fireworks at 4th of July. I've never even been out there, but if that's something that you all would want to consider getting into, we could look further into the grant and get back with you. Otherwise, we could postpone that till the next year. I mean, this is something that was on the tickler here.
Well, I know there's other organizations working on Spoil Islands programs. The Friends of the Spoil Islands that we worked in conjunction with for our program, the expanding the Litter Quitter program. So we might refer it to them, or maybe there would be a good chance for. But I don't know if we want to.
What would we have to do? What would be the obligation if, say, like I said, yes, I'll do it. I don't really know,
Great question.
The grant pays for the restoration of these islands. You know, these Spoil Islands were established from the dredge material of the channel. And so a lot of them have invasives, and a lot of them have a lot of natives on them. And so I know when I was a consultant, we did a big Spoil Island restoration. I mean, everything was removed from this island and then replanted, and it takes irrigation and all of this good stuff. But there is grant dollars out there again.
Who writes the grant?
Well, we could all do that together. If this is something you're interested in, we can bring you further information. If this is something that you don't want to take on this year, because, I mean, if you feel like your plates are full.
If somebody's willing to give us money, I think that we shouldn't turn down the opportunity to get money. I mean, money's hard to come by these days, so if there's a real opportunity to get something and make there's been a lot of talk about the Spoil Islands and it's their degradation, by users. And I think that if we can do something to effect an improvement, I think it's something we should definitely look at.
I would like to hear your entire list.
You want to hear the rest of the list? I hear you. Okay. The rest of the list is going back to our landscape task force for the ordinance change. I apologize. We are, a small staff, and there's a lot on our plate. But this is something that is very important to us. And the other portion of that is the landscape maintenance recommendations. I believe Kim may have started doing research on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But we would like recommendations on what is good steward landscape maintenance throughout our city. So, we can then enact that with our landscape contractors and our public works individuals. And so that is something that I know Kim has already started research on. If that's something that also interests you, I know it's important to the city that we start moving in that direction.
I can tell you what it would be similar to how we reviewed the landscaping ordinances last summer. So I have the Florida-friendly recommendations for landscape maintenance for municipalities. We have that packet. And then we have the packet of our existing contract and how it's managed. And it will begin with comparing those.
And this is for the city only, or for
the city?
This is for us as we maintain our natural areas. Yes, our parks and all of that.
Does this include the conservation areas?
Those are county managed.
We don't have
County.
conservation
They're all
areas here,
county, okay.
yeah, that's the county. So I have that, I have the landscape ordinance, I have the spoil island, I have sustainable Sebastian. Those are the, and of course, the garden out here in City Hall.
Sustainable Sebastian was moved down to accommodate the, right, that's what we were working on when we moved it down to accommodate Earth Day.
Correct.
So I think that should go back to the top of the agenda.
Okay.
And then I like the idea of the municipal one next, so because the sustainable Sebastian, I think, is almost, well, I don't know.
We're bound by the people that are going to be in charge of implementing it. I think I will push for a training event for litter quitter so that we can at least get certified for that and start certifying, even if we don't have all the funding to provide materials, but we can start getting certified.
So, I mean,
is it an actionable?
No, I'm just looking for nods of consent and then if I've missed anything, again, if I've missed something that you feel and I'm sorry, Ms. Ware, you're new, so you may come up with a bright idea, tonight at 2 in the morning, that's when I get my bright ideas. But anyways, and I'm not saying this is the end, it's just that I'm trying to get a good feel as to where this board wants to head and how you're heading, and really that's the whole reason I'm here, is to help you move this along and make sure that we're trying to get things done, for your benefit as the community members and representatives, so if you have anything else, of course, Kim is always available.
Send me any,
you.
if you run across something and you feel like it's really something we should approach, you always send me the material and I can provide it for the next agenda. Make sure all the board members get it.
Okay, so just because we were talking about a lot, we're talking about sustainable Sebastian being at the top of our agenda moving forward.
the landscape, we're finishing up the landscape ordinance program.
Okay, and
That's that, right?
I misunderstood you, I'm sorry,
I'm
Mr.
just going
O'Neill.
down the
I was
list and
thinking sustainable Sebastian was definitely number one.
That's definitely happening.
That's right up there.
You've been working on that a long time. It'd be
Yeah,
great
yeah.
to see you get
Right.
that wrapped up. I think you're going in a great direction with that. And then I thought it was the landscape maintenance. Am I,
The landscape
or is it
maintenance for the
landscape
city.
ordinance?
Well, we were talking about the residential.
For the landscape
Invasive
ordinance.
For Florida friendlies and all that stuff, right?
That's another thing.
We
That's
collected those
separate.
recommendations last year. I was just, if we want to go forward, the maintenance side of it, it would be similar in that you'll have to compare and review some material.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one question? Yes. Is that where I can engage with the spraying issues and things like that? Would that be someplace where we would fit in? Is that a good channel?
Well, you can engage with whoever you like, but all I'm saying is that the spraying of the canals and the waterways is kind of another issue.
Is that part of the maintenance?
But certainly, no, that's maintenance of like facilities.
All right, that's what I was asking.
Right,
This
but
would
this
cover
is
the setbacks that they were talking about, right? The,
setbacks to our waterways.
right.
Again, I don't want to get into a zoning type of an issue, but we're talking about, we have maintenance contractors and public works working on our public facilities for our landscape, and I think it would be nice to be able to kind of provide them with an alternative just for the landscape maintenance. And certainly spraying of chemicals is involved in there, and so, we can kind of lead
Just
that
trying to
path
develop
if you'd
some
like.
boundaries here, so.
However, we want, I believe this board has said before, they want to encourage natives and they want to encourage, so there's a way of planting that reduces your need of maintenance. And I think maybe that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
By city facilities, I mean like around
Our
City
parks.
Hall and our city parks.
Yes. So if that's something you're interested again in
Oh, absolutely.
pursuing? Okay.
Yeah, we would like to be on board with that. I mean, I should ask for consensus, I'm sorry.
Do we want to, do we want to make a motion to accept this as?
Oh, I don't really need a motion, but.
Okay, yeah.
Again, and again, this is a living ideas, so if you have, any other ideas, Kim is there to catch them. And we'll be happy to share with you the Spoil Island grant and, what's going on with that.
Yeah, please do that.
Okay?
Yeah, great.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
All right, so we're off to member matters. Do we have any member matters? Just like to say thanks to everybody for the Earth Day. It was worked out great. And next year, I'm sure it'll go, hopefully it'll go even smoother. So, there you go. All right, items for next agenda.
I think we just discussed them, didn't we?
We did. So, all right, then,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
second? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for.